Hello, crypto boys and ghouls, and welcome back to the channel, Tales from the Cryptmancer, where we feature content on play and earn games on the blockchain, such as Splinterlands. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about some ideas and concepts that might be a little controversial, but hey, this channel is, I guess, maybe a little bit controversial at times. And we're going to talk about a Splinterlands topic that I think needs to be discussed. And it's the topic of the new player experience. And my thoughts on the new player experience, and specifically my disappointment this year in what has been essentially 9 months wasted, in my opinion, which just is a personal opinion, on the new player experience, and what I believe the focus of the team should have been, and what it can be moving forward, and why it's important. So hear me out here as I want to talk about this important topic, and I'm going to give you, I guess, my opinion on what have been the challenges thus far and solutions on how this can be addressed and fixed moving forward. Now, this is coming out of a number of conversations that have happened, I guess, over the last couple of days, starting with the Cryptomancer DAO proposal to pay for future land development, followed by the down hall, and we can talk more about that maybe in another video. But this specific video is to talk about really kind of my, I guess it would probably be disappointment with where the game is at and where I think it really should be at if we had made better decisions. Now, as you can see with this video graphic, what I'm really trying to imply here is that I think it's really not that difficult, Splinterlands, and why the new player investment this year has been a mistake. Now, specifically, what I will say, I'm talking about the new player experience. I talked about this with Aftersound on his stream on YouTube earlier this evening, is that I really think the money that is being earmarked from the Hive DAO proposal to get basically $500,000 for marketing and a marketing person to bring new players into Splinterlands is it's probably a bad use of funds currently in the moment. And this whole new player experience thing is really, I think, not a good waste, or I guess not a good use of resources from a development perspective or from a time and resource perspective. And, when I talk about why I think this marketing activity, well, sure, earmarking it's fine. I just think that whole thing was unnecessary to go and basically beg the Hive community for funds when it's really probably, certainly funds are probably needed for Splinterlands, but under the premise that you're going to use it for marketing is just kind of foolish at the moment. And I'll give you one example in the Web3 space that I think is relevant. If you've been following Illuvium, they have given out in the last 2 months, in the months of August and September, 60,000 ILV token as part of their airdrop campaign to bring in players to their ecosystem. And 60,000 tokens is roughly the equivalent of somewhere between 2 million to 2.4 million US dollars that they've given away to their community for playing their game, essentially. And I hate to break it to you, but it's not really been super successful in Illuvium, and they've actually put that program on hold as they look at, kind of fixing things, showing things up in the game, and getting better bang for their buck in their token and their dollars spent. And the reality check here is with Illuvium, they might have brought in somewhere between 10 to 20,000 players, roughly, with that $2.4 million spent on marketing in the last 2 months. Which is really a bad conversion ratio. And it's why they've stopped kind of giving that amount out. It was scheduled to go for another 4 months at that rate, and they're reevaluating it. Here's the cold hard facts. Illuvium gave out $2.4 million basically just to try out their game over the last 2 months, and it wasn't successful. Splinterlands, if they invest, let's say, half of that $500,000 in a marketing person to come on board in their salary, and the other $250,000 in marketing for Splinterlands the game, it's really not going to do anything in the current environment or possibly a future environment as well. It's just lost money. It's not going to be well received. It's not going to bear fruit, in my opinion. And you can just look at the Illuvian example and the amount that they spent, 2.4 million, which is literally like 10 times as much as Splinterlands is going to spend, and they're just not getting the right value on that spend. So let's talk a little bit of why I think new player experience has been really quite a disaster in 2024. One is we've got really nothing to show for it. Yeah, we might have some quests going live here for new players, which, I mean, I guess that's better than what we had before, but better than what we had before, which was nothing, is, well, really not really substantial. And in the grand scheme of things, is it going to onboard new players? No. Will it keep new players here longer? Perhaps. Should it have taken 9 months to get this far? Absolutely not, in my opinion. And what is new player experience in general? Can anyone define it? What is it exactly? Sure, they've changed some things on the website from a navigation perspective and trying to get mobile ready, but these are all nebulous things with no, hard defined kind of release schedule or dates or any type of structure. We just kind of get stuff in this new player experience bundle, and we get it when we get it, and hopefully it turns into something that is useful, but we have no idea. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you, and it's going to be maybe controversial, but I think it's quite logical, honestly. And what it comes down to basically is it's about the economy of the tokens, the assets, and the earnings in the game, period. That's what is going to bring new players into Splinterlands. And we've got a large overhang of errors that were made previously that we're paying for still today. We've got an overhang of cards, number one. We've got an overhang of DEC that we need to burn through, number two. And we've got a lot of SPS being minted daily that's not being consumed because it's not adding value or utility to the existing players. These three overhangs need to be addressed and fixed for the game to move forward and succeed, in my opinion. And that's why green candles are greater or more important than the new player experience and everything else at the moment. And let me talk a little bit about this, because we've talked about my hypothesis that new player experience is not meaningful in the moment, and that things have not been, in my personal opinion, done very well this year with this focus on new player experience, and we've been kind of spinning sideways and downwards for the last 9 months of 2024 with nothing really to show for it. So now what I'd like to propose to you are easy, no-brainer solutions on how we can get to a better spot and fix the economy, get to green candles, and get more players in this game, right? This is not rocket science, what I'm going to propose to you. It literally took 5 minutes for me just to jot down some ideas on how we can improve in these areas of card overhang, A, B, DEC overhang, and C, SPS value, utility, and overhang. And honestly, when you look at these ideas, I mean, these are things that probably could be implemented by next month, if developers focused on it instead of waiting another 9 months for who knows what to happen in the game. And let's talk about it, right? So here are the basic concepts and ideas that could help turn things around, because, again, on this channel, we don't just complain about things and move on, right? And create videos that are just there for clickbait and to have people in an uproar, but we want to propose solutions that can improve the game, improve the ecosystem, and improve our general fun in the game here. And look, if we want to address the card burn problem, there are two ideas here that are really not super complicated, but could add immediate value to game players in the ecosystem and also burn a lot of cards and act as a card sink in the game and get rid of some of this overhang. Now, basically, the first concept would be a warp gate, for example. And this would be something that you could put on land, right? And basically, if you built a warp gate building on land in one of your land, you could use it to, for example, burn cards into this warp gate that you had on a land. So you need to buy land and have land working, and your warp gate could consume a number of cards per hour per day based on your production points. Again, this is encouraging people to stake DEC on land, to own land. And what are you going to get if you burn BCX in this warp gate on your land? Well, it could mint a consumable card. Aftersound has talked about this as an idea, right? Create a 0 mana card. I think his idea was a chicken or something like that. But, in this case, let's just call it an animated construct, right? Create a 0 mana animated construct card that is a consumable that you can slam in your lineup at any point in time, and just gets burned. And it's a 0 mana card, and it kind of acts as like a meat shield in the modern environment, right? Is it anything game breaking? Is it going to instantly mint millions of SPS out of thin air? No, it's not. But it is a gameplay loop and mechanic that could be implemented, that could encourage people to burn cards to get this consumable to have on hand, at any given point in time, like a half a dozen or a dozen of them, to be able to use in a pinch, right? So certainly something feasible that doesn't break the game, but adds value to players playing the game. Now, another thing you could do is you could create a building in the guild structure, right? You can call it a Sarlacc pit or whatever else you want to call it. It's basically just another way to burn cards or sink cards. And what would that do? Let's say you sink or burn, X number of BCX, and you get a benefit from a guild perspective. What could that benefit be? Maybe your guild as a whole has to burn, 20,000 or 50,000 BCX, whatever that happens to be, to get the benefit. And all of a sudden with this Sarlacc pit, if you, sacrificial altar, whatever you want to call it, if you burn X amount of BCX in your guild, all of a sudden now in your brawls, you unlock the ability to use one extra gladiator card in your battles, right? Right now in brawls, you can use one gladiator card unless you use a gladiator summoner, right? Well, if you have a Sarlacc pit or a sacrificial altar and you burn a certain number of BCX permanently in your guild, well, then you're going to unlock the ability to use maybe 2 gladiators in a brawl, right? And maybe if you burn 100,000 BCX of cards in your guild because you're crazy, maybe you can then unlock a 3rd gladiator slot so you could play up to 3 gladiators in a brawl battle. Again, is this going to mint millions of SPS or DEC out of nowhere and cause problems in the ecosystem? No, it doesn't do anything for SPS. The guild SPS for brawl battles is set as it is. Will it encourage the burning of cards in guilds? Sure, because guilds might want an advantage to be able to win against other guilds, right? So this could be a game benefit that's provided that doesn't break anything in the game, but it gives a benefit to players playing the game and burning those cards. It's optional, and they maybe want to do it to get that advantage for their guild. It encourages card burn, card sink, and it helps take that edge off of the Chaos Legion set that's just hanging out there. So these are things that could be implemented quickly and help from a card burn perspective. Again, to help what we're trying to do here, well, we're helping to get the token values in a better spot, right? We're trying to get the token values and the asset values to go up instead of down, because again, I stand by the philosophy here that green candles right now are more important than anything else in the game that we can do. So by getting rid of cards and making cards scarcer and more valuable over time, by putting these things in the game that don't break anything or hurt anything, it does good things. And why does that do good things? Well, imagine you're a modern player in Champion and you're getting 30 SPS per win. With SPS at less than a penny, let's say at 7/10 of a penny, that's only like what, 21 cents per win that you're getting. Nobody cares about winning 21 cents in Web3 when you play a game. It just doesn't make the rounds. It doesn't hit anywhere on Twitter. No one cares. But all of a sudden, if let's say SPS was at 10 cents, right, and you're making 30 SPS for a win in Champion, now you're making $3 a game playing Splinterlands. Now people are excited. People are coming in, they're looking at the game, they're buying cards, they're renting cards, they're buying Rebellion packs, they're winning $3 a game. These are things that are impactful, and it's possible that SPS gets back to 10 cents if you do things that encourage the burning and sinking of assets and things that were overprinted, that were mistakes that were made previously. And that's why green candles trump everything else. Let's talk about another idea, right? We talked about cards and the card overhang. Well, let's talk about, I don't know, SPS utility, right? Because SPS is important, right? We want SPS to go up and we want SPS to be scarce or valuable. Well, it's hard to burn SPS. We already have an SPS burning mechanism with the flywheel in place, so we don't want to necessarily do anything to change that. But how can we add more value to SPS? How can we lock more SPS up in staking, for example? Well, it's simple. This is not rocket science, right? Add utility to SPS. For every 100,000 SPS that a player stakes, let's say that gives you an extra 1 energy every 24 hours, right? So let's say, for example, you have staked 500,000 SPS. Well, every day, instead of getting 24 battles, you would get 5 extra battles. You get 29 battles every 24 hours because you staked 500,000 SPS. It's locked, it's not liquid, it's not being sold, right? Does that break the game? Does it make the game spiral out of control with minting millions of SPS or DEC? No. In fact, it locks up SPS and it makes it valuable, adds utility very easily. Coding wise, this could probably be done in less than a half hour, right? It's not rocket science. It doesn't break the game, but it adds utility. If you stake 100,000 SPS, you get an extra energy every 24 hours. It's that simple. If some whale has 1,000,000 SPS, they get an extra 10 battles a day. Is that a big deal? In the grand scheme of things, no. I mean, they might earn a little bit more SPS than someone that doesn't stake 1,000,000 SPS, but that should be the behavior that we want to encourage. That just makes sense. So, if someone is out there and they have 140,000 SPS, will they maybe buy another 60,000 SPS to get that extra energy every 24 hours? Sure. Is it bad that someone wants to buy 60,000 SPS and stake it? No, that's a good thing. We should encourage that, right? So having game loops that encourage the behaviors that we want to see in the game is something that can be easily done, but these type of game loops in additions are not being added to the game, and it's honestly a travesty. So again, maybe someone has 80,000 SPS and wants to get 1 extra energy a day. They maybe wouldn't have otherwise bought 20,000 SPS, but now they might. So you get the picture, right? So we add utility and value to SPS through game loops and game mechanics that are beneficial to playing the game and don't break the economy. Let's talk about DEC as the last example here. DEC, we've got a lot of extra DEC. It would be good if we get to burn some of that DEC. Well, how could we do that? Well, I don't know. Maybe partner with someone like Siler out there, or maybe develop your own tool that basically allows you to see an alternate team that might have had a higher win percentage than the team you submitted for that rule set. For example, let's say the game knows that when you submit a team, it has, let's say, a 33% chance to win, right? If there was an algorithm that can do that, we know that Siler has battle vision on XBot and does that type of thing, right? Well, let's say the game knows after you run a battle, let's say you won or you lost the game, it doesn't really matter. The game pops up and says, would you like to see an alternate team recommendation for that rule set? Yes or no? And it has a price, let's say, of 10 DEC, right? And if you say yes, it burns 10 DEC, and it shows you, hey, for that rule set and that mana cap, this team right here has an estimated 40% win rate. It just pulls it out of the hat, right? It says, pick a team that has a higher win rate than what was just submitted. And it shows you a team that maybe has different positioning or different cards selected. And you look at it and you study and you go, okay, yeah, that's a better team than what I used. Maybe I can remember that for next time or try and use that combination. And as a player, I'm learning, I'm getting better, whether I'm a new player or an old player. And it's of benefit to me in the game, right? I'm burning DEC. It's an optional thing. I don't have to get a recommended alternate team. But if I want to, I can get it an option, and I can learn, I can study the game, and I can get better, right? Does it hurt or break the game? No, it's not increasing any additional SPS minting or DEC minting or anything like that. It's just making our players more educated, more knowledgeable, and it's an optional DEC burn that adds benefit to the player. Could the team develop this, or could they, license Siler to do something with his battle vision to do that option? More than likely. I mean, could this be easily implemented in the game? I think so. It's just an option to select, and they just display the team. This is not rocket science. Again, these are ideas that took me 5 minutes to come up with, and all of these ideas are probably fairly straightforward to implement. Wouldn't take 9 months to implement, but they immediately start burning DEC. They start encouraging staking of SPS. They burn cards. These are things that lead to green candles and get us back to a token price and asset prices that are going up and not going down, because it's about the economy and it's about the ecosystem that's going to bring, new players into the game, and to bring back old players that used to play the game, and keep players that are here happy because there are new functions and features added to the game. So there it is. Very straightforward, very simple. Are there other ideas that we could put together as a community and put in place that would take more than 5 minutes? Sure. I'm sure if we spent 10 minutes, we could think of, 3 more good ideas, right? That could be probably implemented easily and add benefits to DEC, SPS, or cards, right? Again, this is what should be focused. This is where the developers should be spending their time helping get Splinterlands to a better state. We've got issues with excess cards. We've got issues with too much DEC. We've got issues with not enough utility for SPS. Let's add game mechanics, game loops, game functions that help with these areas, make players happy about the game, make players want to play the game more, want to invest more in the game. These are things that should be a priority. And with that, keep stacking those stats. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and have a great rest of your October.